Hello students, my name is Hans Onjinjo. I'm a teacher of mathematics at Moflori Secondary School. So today we are going to look at the second part of our previous lesson, still on the straight line graphs. So as usual, just make sure that you have the required materials for the lesson. So we'll be looking at how to draw straight line graphs today. And the lesson objectives, all learners should be able to draw and interpret linear graphs using the equations, and also should be able to find the equation of a straight line in the form of y equals to mx plus c. So this is a general form of equation of straight lines. So we have steps that you need to follow when you are required to draw a straight line graph. So the first one, choose a minimum of 3 values for x values, and always remember to include 0. This is because it is always more easy to use 0. Then you will be required to draw the table of values of x and y. I will explain that. Then substitute these values of y into the given equation of a straight line. We shall look at that for you to get the corresponding values of y. Then on the coordinate grid, use the table to plot. So you'll be using the values that you have on the table. So make sure you have your ruler and your pencil. So after plotting the points, you'll be able to join the points, and also always remember to label the line by its equation. So there we go. You might be required to draw this equation. So we have the first equation is y equals to x minus 4, y equals to 2x plus 3, and y equals to negative 2x minus 3. So we shall start with the first one. So remember, we said you have to choose at least 3 values. So that's the table that I'm talking about. The x values, we have 0, we have 2, and 4. You can choose any number, but always try to start with 0. So in this case now, for you to get the value of y, corresponding values of y, you will substitute in your equation where there's x, you will substitute it with 0. So when you put 0 here, it will be 0 minus 4, which will give you negative 4 as the value of y. Then when x is 2, you will put 2 where there's x. So 2 minus 4 will give you negative 2. Then also 4 minus 4 is 0. So it's very important that you have at least 3 points. The third point is just to check if the line is correct. Because if you only use 2 points, definitely you will have a straight line. But the third one might help you to confirm if your answer is correct. So once you have the values on the table, we have the coordinates 0, negative 4, then we have 2, negative 2, then 4, 0. Those are the coordinates. So the grid that we have the y-axis, the x-axis. So we are going to plot those points. We have 0, negative 4, which is here. Then we have 2, negative 2 here. Then we have 4, 0 there. Then you need to take your ruler and join all those points. So that is the line of y equals to x minus 4. So it's very important to label your lines, because at times we have more than one line. So we need to know which line is for which equation. So the same applies for the remaining 2. We have the table of values here, x, negative 2, 0, and 1. So we have 0. As we said that you need to include it. Then also here now, where there's x, you will substitute with negative 2. Remember, 2x means 2 times x. So that will be 2 times negative 2. It's negative 4. Negative 4 plus 3 will give you negative 1. There we are. Then when x is 0, 2 times 0 is 0. 0 add 3 will give you 3. Then 2 times 1 is 2. 2 add 3 is 5. So those are the coordinates that we have. Plotting the coordinates should not be a problem. The same applies to the third one. When x is negative 3, now it is negative 2 times negative 3 will give us positive 6. So 6 minus 3 will give us 3. Then negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. So positive 2 minus 3 will give us negative 1. Then lastly, negative 2 times 0 is 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So you can use your calculator to get those values. So after that, you will plot those points and join them with a straight line, and don't forget to label your lines. So that is an exercise for you. Copy and complete the table of values for y equals to x plus 3 from negative 3 to positive 3. Though on the table we have negative 3 to 2, there's no problem. You can add 3 there. But remember I said we only need at least 3 points, so there's no problem there. So I will give you maybe 1 minute to copy that question. And please remember, when you are drawing your graph, you are expected to use the values from the table. So hint, use the points from the table. Okay? And make sure that you get a straight line. If the 3 points are not giving a straight line, then you have to recheck your substitution. You must have a straight line. I think that is clear. So the next one now is finding the equation of a line, of a straight line in the form of y equals to mx plus c. At S4 level, I think now you should be able to understand the meaning of the equation y equals to mx plus c. You need to remember that this m stands for gradient. Okay? The gradient is always coefficient of x. Coefficient of x is simply a number in front of x, which is given by m. It can be any number. It can be a positive number, negative number, it can be a decimal, it can be a fraction. Then c is the y-intercept. Y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, where the line meets the y-axis. For example, here, the line meets x-axis at 1, so the value of c should be 1. So the general equation of a straight line has the form y equals to mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Now, the given line, you can choose any 2 points on the line, because for us to get the equation of a line, we need to know the gradient and the y-intercept. So finding the gradient, we still do it the same way. So we have the point A and point B. So from there, you'll have your right angle triangle there. You can see the scale is uniform. So change in y is 3 and change in x is 1. Therefore, our gradient will be 3, because 3 divided by 1 is 3. So that means m is 3. Then y-intercept, the coordinate of that point is 0, 1. Remember, we said that on the y-axis, the value of x is always 0. So now we know the value of m as 3. We know the value of c as 1. So you just substitute them so that we have our equation as y equals to 3x plus 1. So this is the required equation. So m here is 3 and c is 1. So it's just as simple as that. So find the gradient of each line. So we shall start with the first one, which is y equals to x minus 4. There we are. So finding gradient the same way, you draw your right angle triangle. And of course, the scale is uniform in this case. So change in y is 1 and change in x is 1. Therefore, we expect the gradient to be 1. 1 divided by 1 is just 1. The next one is the equation of y equals to 2x plus 3. So change in y is 2, change in x is 1. So here we still expect our gradient to be 2. 2 divided by 1 is 2. Then lastly, for y equals to negative 2x minus 3, we have that change in y is 2, change in x is 1. But since it slopes downwards, the answer must be negative. But still, you could find the gradient of these lines without doing that. Just by looking at the equation, we have the knowledge that the gradient of a line is coefficient of x. That is the number in front of x. But please, before you check that number of x, you must make sure that y is 1, making y the subject of the formula before you check the value of m. So for the first one, you can see the x means 1x, so coefficient of x is 1, so that is our gradient. For equation 2, the number in front of x is 2, that's our gradient, and for the third one, it is -2, as simple as that. So that is the easiest way, but remember please, you must make y the subject of the formula before you look for your gradient. So finding the y-intercept of each line, that's also a possible question that you can be asked. So when the line is drawn, it's very simple. The y-intercept of any line is where the line crosses the y-axis, as simple as that. So for the first one, first equation is y equals to x minus 4. So you can see that line crosses y-axis at -4. There we are. And therefore, the coordinate is 0, -4. So remember, on the y-axis, the value of x is always 0. So if you are required to write in coordinate form, there we are. Then the next line crosses y-axis at 3. So we have 0, 3. Then the other one crosses y-axis at -3. So there we are. But still, you can still get the value of y-intercept simply by looking at the equation that is given, so long as you make y the subject of the formula. So here, the value of c is just -4. There we are. Here it's just 3. There we are. Here it's just -3. There we are. Okay, so that can also help you. It is much easier. So we are now going to investigate further. So we are going to look at the gradients of parallel lines, the relationship between gradients of parallel lines, and also finding the equation of a straight line parallel to a given line. So the objective here, all the learners should be able to find the equation of a straight line parallel to a given line. So what do you know about the gradient of parallel lines? So it's very important to note that parallel lines have the same gradient. This is very, very important. Sometimes they just give equations of lines, then they ask you to determine the lines which are parallel. So simply look at the gradient. And before you do that, please make sure that you make y the subject of the formula. So we have those given lines. What did you discover about gradients of parallel lines? So the next example, that's what I was talking about. Are these lines parallel? So first of all, check if the equation is in terms of y. So that is y equals to 3x minus 2. It is 1y. So you simply look at the gradient, that is the coefficient of x. You can see this is 3. This is also 3. So we said parallel lines have got the same gradient. So these two lines have the same gradient of 3, and therefore we can say they are parallel. Even if you draw them, just like we've learned previously, how to draw straight line graphs. You get your table, you get your numbers. When you draw it, you'll be able to see that the two lines are parallel, as we have it there. So the answer to this question is yes, they both have a gradient of 3. Therefore, the two lines are parallel. The next one, are these lines parallel? Now we have y equals to -x plus 2. Then we have y equals to -3x plus 2. So by looking at the gradient, you'll be able to see that the gradients here are not the same. The first one has a gradient of -2, the second one -3. Therefore, even if you draw them, you'll be able to see that they are not parallel. So the answer is no, they have different gradients. We have -2 and -3. So those lines are not parallel. So that knowledge is very important, that parallel lines have got the same gradient. At times, you don't need to draw them. Now, show me the equation of a line parallel to this one. So we know that for parallel lines, they must have the same gradient. So here the gradient is 4. Therefore, that any other line must also have a gradient of 4. The m must also be 4. But remember, when we are told to write the equation of a parallel line to this one in this case, you will still have y equals to 4x plus, but this c should not be 1. You can use any number but not 1, the number that is given here. So that is very, very important. It will be the same gradient, but the value of c should not be the given one. You can use any number. So if you look at the second one here, the gradient is negative 5. So we expect the other one also to have a gradient of negative 5. So here we are not given the value of c, so we can say that it passes through the origin. Now, finding equations of parallel lines, for example, how can you find a line parallel to y? How can you find the equation of a line parallel to y equals to 2x minus 1 that passes through 0, negative 3? So we have method 1, draw a diagram. Okay. So there we are. And remember, the other line should be passing through 0, 3. So 0, 3, you will plot it here. Here we are. So you are going to draw a line parallel to this line, but passes through 3. So here you can see from 3 to the given line, we have 2 big squares. So still from that line, just count another 2 big squares and put a point there. Then you can join with a straight line. There you are. So that is, now work out the equation of the line that you have drawn. So now we need to find the equation of this line. But since they are parallel, we know that this line also has a gradient of 2, but now it passes through 3, not negative 1. So you simply make your substitution. So our equation will be y equals to 2x plus 3. You see now it passes through 3 on the y-axis. So that is the required equation. So that is method 1. Then we have method 2. This is now where you use the general knowledge of y equals to mx plus c. We know that the lines are parallel. Therefore, they have the same gradient, which in this case is 2. But it passes through 0, 3. So you can see here the y-axis, the y-coordinate is 3. Therefore, the value of c should be equals to that 3. So this is the easiest. So you know the gradient m will be 2. And 0, 3 is on the y-axis. Therefore, c equals to 3. Okay. So if that is the line that is given, you have your 3 on the y-axis. So that is the expected line. If you draw it, you'll get that. So you have 2 ways of doing it. You can do it without drawing the lines. Still, you'll be able to get the same answer. So finding equations of parallel lines still, how can we find the equation of a line parallel to this one and passes through 1, 0 coordinate? So here now you have to be a bit more careful. Method 1, that's the given line. And it passes through 1, 0. So 1, 0 is this point. So you are required to draw a line parallel to this given line, but passes through that point. And just remember, parallel lines, the distance between them is always equal. So that is very important to remember. So once you have drawn that, we know that the gradient still, their parallel is 3. So the value of c, you will check where that line crosses the y-axis. And that should give you the value of c. It crosses the y-axis at negative 3. Therefore, our equation, the equation of that line should be y equals to 3x minus 3. So the required equation is y equals to 3x minus 3. Then, how can we find a line parallel to y equals to 3x plus 2? That is method 2 now. We are using the general form of the equation, y equals to mx plus c. So we know that the lines are parallel, means they have the same gradient of 3. So this m equals to 3. And the point where the line passes through, that is 1, 0, we are going to use it to give us the value of c. So from the given equation y equals to mx plus c, we know that m is 3, we have it there. So we are going to substitute the coordinates x, y on this equation. So here x is 1, you will put it there, and y is 0, you will put it there. Then now you are making this c the subject of the formula. So you'll be able to see that 3 times 1 is 3. So making c the subject, you need to take this 3 on the other side. And when it crosses equal sign, the sign changes to negative. Therefore, our value of c is negative. So therefore, the equation of the line still will be the same as we found it in the first method. So it's your turn, that is your exercise. So I'll give you 1 minute to copy it. So the first exercise, what is the equation of the line that is parallel to y equals to 2x plus 3 and passes through 0, 5? Number 2, what is the equation of the line that is parallel to red line and passes through 0, negative 3? So the choice is yours. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our lesson. Thank you very much for your attention.